And welcome in to Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. Post the Chicago Blackhawk game, we're back to our roots, folks. This is a true Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. 9:06 a.m. to be exact. We used to do it even earlier than this, but I think that's because it was COVID, right? We had nothing else to do. We'd be up at like 6 o'clock, excited just to do something and get it done and get it out. The good old just on YouTube days. Now we're back on YouTube, Razor. And we're on all of your audio platforms too, as Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor has developed just a little bit. Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor, as always, my friend, is presented by our wonderful friends over at Fazenda Coffee. Fazenda Coffee, the lead sponsor of Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor in pod, is the place to go for all your Morning Brew stuff, including the Morning Brew blend, your Clean Canteen Traveler, or the Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor hats. It's also the place to go if you want some great coffee. They've got all different types of coffee, from light roast to very dark, whole bean to ground. They'll do it for you. They'll ship it for you. Go to fazendacoffee.com, and you can either go just right to their website or go /Morning Brew and check out all the stuff. And, if you order more than $35, you get free shipping. So there's a lot of great stuff there. Fazenda Coffee has got you covered, whether you are in wholesale or retail, you're a cafe or just an at-home user. FazendaCoffee.com is probably presenting Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. All right, I'm also producing this show, so you got to give me a moment.
Real treat today.
It is. This is a real treat. This will be an absolute F-up moment. We know that. In fact, I keep thinking shit's happening already. RC's
it looks perfect from my end right now.
Okay, so good for now.
So far, so we got Fazenda in. That's they support us so much that it's a perfect stocking stuffer stuff too. Like you have to go and crank out the Christmas shopping at Fazenda.
Yes,
Hanukkah
please
shopping.
do. And the Morning Brew, Jaffe and Razor hats that are going to fly off the shelf. We limited edition, and a lot of them have already been sold. They're a great holiday gift. So this is a good start right now, kind of like an early goal in a game, like the Chicago Blackhawks had against the Boston Bruins the night before. Last time we sat and talked, we were celebrating the Bruins centennial. They also had a win in that game over Montreal. We have not done the show since the Detroit game at home and now the Chicago game on the road. So this is a perfect two-game wrap-up. Bruins win both. Razor, they are now 6-2-0 under the Joe Sacco interim head coach time there. Couple of things that have been really good. At times, they're structured internally. I still think they're giving up. They're going back to still giving up some plays middle of the ice, but their PK has been really, really good. Let's work though in reverse order. Let's start with Chicago. Chicago gets off to a good start. They get a goal early in the game, and you're thinking, oh boy, Bruins could be tired. Late night travel, back-to-back games, playing a team that, while they're not great in the Blackhawks, they do have a lot of former Bruins who are motivated, and they do have a lot of young players that are motivated to show on national TV, we're not this bad, right? We're better. Yet the Bruins respond. They respond quickly after that first goal, too. And I think that goal was enormous, right? The Marchand goal, enormous to settle things down for this Bruins team.
No question. And yeah, Chicago, they're not good. Horrible travel. Horrible deal to have to go to Chicago on a back-to-back in the middle of the week for one game. Like,
you know what the worst part about it is? The worst part.
Home.
Well, you don't get to spend the night a day in Chicago.
Well, on top of it. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's like a waste. That's one of those trips, Razor, as a player where you're like, give me a day in Chicago. Give me at least a night to go get a great dinner in Chicago. Like, let me get in at 4 o'clock and have a night out. Not even of that for the Bruins.
Yeah, no, nothing.
And by the way, I made a mistake. It was Geekie who tied it up. My apologies. I
knew
got ahead of myself.
Wasn't going to. You're producing. I'm not going to jump on you. We all knew who scored the first goal. It's we watched.
It's important. It's no, it's important that Geekie scored not one but two. I'm going to ask you how important that was.
Oh, very.
But that was a tough travel, as you were saying.
No, it's brutal travel. Like I was like, and then the first one, I was expecting them to score a couple early, and then Chicago come on late. The typical. Yeah. The real typical back-to-back. The Bruins are 3-0, by the way, on back-to-backs second half. That's you're gaining 4, maybe 5 points on the field with these games back-to-back. So Bruins have always been good at that. That's the one thing that's stayed the same the entire season. But I think we're back to the structure. We're back to the Boston Bruins. And it's the PK. It's a PK. gang. That's what this all comes down to. We've been saying it all year. It just didn't make sense that they have the same people doing it, the same coaches coaching it, the same goalies playing it, and it sucked. And now it's good, and now you win games, and now everything feels much better.
In fairness, the PK before the coaching change was starting to do better too. There's no doubt about that. Under Joe Sacco, though, they're 19 of 20 in their 8 games. Let me give you just some numbers while we sit here and talk about it. 6-2-0, 23 goals for, 15 goals against, 3 for 25 on the power play, 19 for 20 on the PK. Their overall Corsi rating, meaning the cumulative amount of shots that they've taken on net, blocked, or missed, they're at 52.5% with regard to efficiency. They've taken 376 total and given up 339. Their face-off percentage is 53.1. Their PDO, which is the combination, Razor, as you know, of power play and PK, is now over 100 in those games too. It had been in the 80s and 90s before that. So those are some good numbers, no question about it. I think maybe you could almost argue the best part about the PK, and by the way, it was 6 for 6 in their previous 3 before the coaching change, just out of, accuracy and fairness, is the fact they're taking fewer penalties. That's got to be one of the best parts about it, right?
Yeah, because they're not chasing and they're not running around in their own zone. They're actually playing good neutral zone. Their sticks are on the ice. They're forechecking better. It's all connected. We've said this, and I think now we've got a 3-game winning streak. We've seen the games that the Pittsburgh one kind of sucked, but they still probably should have won that somehow with, if they get out of the second period. And then,
by the way, Jari now is looking like a real NHL goalie.
Yeah, he's
again.
coming. And then the other game was Vancouver that they lost. That was their best game they've played out of the 8 probably. Right. So, no, it's all good stuff. They're feeling good about themselves. I think they're starting to. They've certainly found more of their identity again. I think they might have decided at some point that, or there might have been a chat where maybe we become an offensive team, but the reality is this is what they are. They're a hard team to play against that doesn't give up many goals and grinds teams down like they did.
Okay, so are they a team that's just playing better against weaker teams and finding their identity? And I'm not saying that in a negative way. Like, I'm not putting them down. I'm saying as they find, or are they now a good team, a pretty good team that is playing with more structure, is a bit better, but still has a long way to go? Where are we at? And is an 8-game view enough?
Well, an 8-game view is enough when they were 500 and everyone's saying, well, they're 10% into the season. They sucked, right? So everybody can't have it both ways. And we can't say they're playing weak teams.
Well, in this world, we can now.
Yeah, well, somebody can. But if you're Joe Sacco, it's hard to win in this league every night. It really is. It's hard to win back-to-back nights, traveling halfway across. Like, it's hard. It's really hard, gang. And so, no, I'm not subscribing to any of that. I think they're a good team. I thought they were a good team going into the season. I think they're hitting their stride. I think they had their adversity. I think they didn't understand their identity. And now you look at the division, there's 4 teams over 500, 3 games. There's 4 teams, 3 games over 500. There's 4 teams under 500. That's what the division is now. And the Bruins are on the right side of it.
And to be fair, again, I mean, I'll call myself out. I thought this division was going to be
way better, but they're not.
And it ain't. No. I thought it was going to be better.
Same guys, same teams aren't good.
Oh my God. I don't want to tangent too much, but did you see that Buffalo game the other night? I was at NHL Network. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And we
thank God their goalie was good. Well, they would have lost 8-4.
Oh, I know.
Right? Like, that's what's even crazier.
He was great. And they were up, folks, if you didn't see it, they were up 4-0 against Colorado. And while they weren't dominating on shots, they were controlling play. They scored. Georgiev is awful. Anyways, Buffalo gave a 4-goal lead and didn't even lose in overtime. They lost in regulation. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Listen, but you're right. But the Metropolitan Division, it appears like they legitimately, and we got a long way to go, could have 5 teams in the playoffs this year. That's a little disconcerting. If you're the Bruins, right? If only because the margin of error is slimmer then. But I thought the Atlantic was going to be better. And maybe it turns, but I don't know. It seems like the Met seems to have more than we thought. So the more important game, Morgan Geekie scores 2 against Chicago. Brad Marchand scores 2 against Chicago. Those are your 4 goal scorers. But was it Geekie scoring 2, or was it Brad and Brazeau? I mean, was there a more important outcome for these guys? You know, to me, it's I don't know. It seems obvious, Geekie. However, the Marchand train is starting to, you know, and he's been putting up points here or there, but again, he comes through for this team. It's 1-1. He scores the next 2 goals, and you could argue that, you know, Pastrnak is, you know, Brad took some shit from the guys from Biz at TNT about how nice is it to just not have to do anything and have Pastrnak do it, but it's still Brad scoring, and he, you know, like when he wasn't scoring, he was working his ass off. But is it just visually seeing Morgan Geekie get 2 goals and because he's been struggling. He's been taking a lot of grief. I don't know if he's still slotted in the right spot, but the fact that he gets rewarded, and we did see a line change, right? We saw a line change late in the first. Pastrnak goes with Marchand and Lindholm, and then Geekie goes with the other line, and it worked. Mm-hmm. It worked. So long way of getting to, is there a more important kind of outcome for one of these guys in this game that you look at?
I think it's Geekie because he's been snake bitten, really snake bitten since the coaching change. Like right away, he had those 2-3 great opportunities in Detroit, didn't score. Couple great chances against Montreal, doesn't score. He's looking at the rafters, and then last night he gets the one that ends up falling in behind him, and he's got to feel like, oh, finally I got a lucky one, and that has to be confident boosting for him. It has to, you know, again. We can debate where he's slotted or what he is. Is he a 25 goal scorer in this league? I imagine he thinks he is. The start doesn't help, but can he pace for 25, let's say, the rest of the year and end up with 17, 18, 19? That would probably end up being pretty good for this team right now as well. So we can debate where he's slotted, but the reality is he is where he is now. And if he can get hot, or if he can start feeling good and continue to shoot the puck, he has a great shot. If he gets in the shot mentality, right? If we get in the shot mentality and not the conservative mentality, then this team gets better. Brad's going to do Brad stuff. He's going to get hot like he is. He's going to get cold. He's going to make turnovers. He's going to make great plays. I think Brad just goes about his business and energizes this team on a daily basis. I think Geekie's more that secondary guy that the Bruins need, that depth guy that we know in the same bucket as a Frederick and a Coyle. And if those guys score, then they're way better.
The shot was evident on both of his goals, even though he scored on one that, as you said, was laying there for him on the first one. Mm-hmm. Really nice pass from Brazeau, gets it to him in the high slot, and he rockets it, goes through Mrazek, who is, as far as I'm concerned, Peter Mrazek is the ultimate feast or famine goalie in the NHL. He can make unbelievable saves, and then you're like, wait, he's out of position. He's this, that, all that stuff, and he can just let one. But that was a good save on the first one. Puck went through him. There's Geekie. The second one, the breakaway goal, the fourth goal of the game, was an absolute snipe. I mean, that looked like Morgan Geekie with all the confidence in the world there. It felt like, just visually, watching him do that he freed himself. He didn't think. We've been seeing too many of these Bruins players think their way through the ice, skate the puck to the net, so to speak. He just smoked it. He absolutely did, and no chance for Mrazek on that one.
No, it's beautiful, and it's different. It's just different for a player when you know your spot, you're going to hit your spot rather than wondering if you're going to hit it, or I'm going to take a little bit off of this to hit my spot, or that's just confidence and mental, the mental game that he's been living with for 25 games. And fortunately it feels like it's starting to break, or look like it did last night anyways.
Well, we got to ask him too, if he's still, I'm going to ask him, he's still getting all the way undressed in between periods.
Yeah.
Again, did you ever have a player? Did you ever have a player do that? Get all the way undressed? Not shoulders and skates. I'm talking. Did you ever see players get totally undressed?
There was guys that did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. I had I know certain goalies would actually take off they'd unstrap the leg. Now that's easy, right? You can unstrap your leg pads. They're almost like Velcro now.
Yeah, guys are walking. Yeah, the goalies, it's crazy because now I'm down underneath a bit, and I ran into a few guys that are out there with basically just their skates and pants on,
right.
eating peanut butter sandwiches in between periods. Like, hey, what's up?
Right.
I'm like, you guys are so lucky to be able to wheel that stuff off so quickly and put it back on. Like, what a envious position I am.
Yeah. And there's players now as well. And this is not that uncommon, but just so you know, folks, behind the curtain, so to speak, there are players that take skates off. We know shoulders, helmets, gloves, shoulders, jerseys, but some guys fully take off a lot, change shirts. But there are some guys that are getting on the bike in between period, take their skates off. They get on there to keep the legs going. They want to get the lactic acid flushed out. All different things. It's not just like the old days where some of them were just sitting in the locker room. The real old days is when they were sitting there. Guys would go out and smoke a dart.
Yeah, go in the shower and have a dart.
Yeah, a bunch of them. Yeah. The old Chicago Blackhawks, Denny Savard, Bob Probert, they would just it was like coffee break. They would go out there, and then Denny Savard would go out there and still spin your ass around with that stuff. Anyways, we'll have to see about Morgan Geekie doing it still or not. Last 5 games, he has 3 goals and an assist. So if you're into the number thing, it's good. He's also recorded more hits, which means he's moving his feet more. So trying to quantify it. Goals and assists oftentimes get that, but I also think shot attempts, and hits for a guy like that. And I know hits are subjective. I get
the other thing too is when you're getting healthy scratched by one coach and another coach comes in, that's a relief too. Like that, the coaching change is a relief to a guy like Morgan Geekie more than everybody else, just because. And whether he and Monty had a good relationship or not, it's just, that's kind of always there, where you have Sacco, who's been helping him through all of that and working with them through that as the associate coach. And then you get more, you just feel like you have more leash. You do. And it's relieving.
Yeah. There's I go back to the word trust. I just do. I think that's where, if a guy like that has trust in the guy, and I can't tell you if he didn't have trust in Monty. That's not what I'm saying.
No, we're not saying. Yeah, we don't need to go there anyways. It doesn't matter. It's just
exactly
what it is now.
But you can just tell that there's a little more of a trust factor. Morgan's a very, you talk to him, he can be very he's very cerebral. He's I think he probably thinks too much at times. But having confidence and trust in himself and the players and the people around him will probably help him an awful lot. Speaking of confidence, Justin Brazeau now has 13 points in 26 games. I mean, not bad. 2 assists in the Chicago game, a goal in the Detroit game, a nice power play deflection, a high one, but at 6'5", 6'6", he's able to reach it and take care of it. Are we seeing him reach what we thought he would be, what we had hoped that he would be? I mean, I'm no good at math, but he could trend towards 40 points. Not bad.
Yep. Oh, excellent. And what I think is the new thought process offensively just benefits him so much. That's what this is, his game. Pucks to the net, getting it back to the point. It's not going east-west as much. It's going right to the net. That's where he lives. That's where he's comfortable. He understands patterns around the net better than most guys on the Bruins. So he's getting in better position. The play behind the net, he feels very comfortable around the net, finding Morgan Geekie on that first goal. He can make plays like that because that's his wheelhouse. He gets out on the flanks. It's not quite the same. That's not where he feels comfortable. When those rims are going around and he's got to get in the offensive zone, I don't think that style fits his game quite as much. And that's why we saw him do so well in the playoffs last season, because they got very simple, especially against the Leafs. And now with the new coach and the new thought, we're going to get to the net, and the simplification of the second power play unit. All of those things all complement his game really well. And similar to what we're talking about Geekie, it's just a confidence and feeling good and feeling like you're actually on the team. For Brazeau, it's like I'm actually becoming an NHLer. Because again, it's been such a small sample size. You forget that, right? Like, yeah, he had a great playoff run, but there's no chance he went into camp feeling like he's an NHLer. And I think now 28 games in, he's solidifying himself.
Yeah. I mean, thank God for Hockey Reference. This year, 82 game average, 20 goals and 16 assists, so 36 points. is his 82-game average.
Yep.
And this year in 26 games, 6 goals, 7 assists. If he can get to 40 points, then it's really good for the guy. And he's played a total of 45 games in 2 years. A total.
It's not that much.
A reminder that last year the broken hand or wrist, whatever it was, in a game late in the season against later in the season against Nashville. All right. As we look at this Bruins team too, let's talk about a few guys one guy in particular took a lot of heat early on and is still at times an interesting watch. I use that word, kind of like, is Nikita Zadorov. He's changed since the coaching staff move in the sense of, and I know post-game Detroit, he talked about the differences. They're playing with passion and pride and for each other and everything. And I get that. I think there's more to it than that, Razor. I think it's a nice answer. You agree? You agree? Okay.
I didn't, it sounds good, but there's
right. Okay. A wake-up call, no doubt about it. Definitely probably we've got to step it up, folks. We have to, guys. Fair enough, all that. But he's not running around as much. He's taken a few penalties the last few games. I'll ask you about the Raymond penalty, the cross-check, et cetera, coming up in a moment here. But in general, his game's better. It's still a work in progress, but at least I think we're seeing a regular presence from him that you're like, okay, all right, there's a shutdown play. There's a good breed on a pass. He's not getting behind players on step-ups, especially in the neutral zone or attempting to gap up. There's a difference to what I'm seeing out of him. Are you seeing the same thing on the ice?
I do, and I think a lot also has to do with him matching up with Brando now, with Brandon Carlo. That changes his game with those two guys paired together a little bit more the last few times out. Just kind of solidifies Carlo's steady Eddie. Nothing flashy ever about his game, but he makes everybody he plays with better. Like, it's just pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
You playing with him and you have better defensive numbers, but to Zadorov, this is what he is. This is what I expected right from the start, and this is what we talked about in the summer. It's going to be an adventure. Like, it's always an adventure. I didn't think it was going to be as much of an adventure as it was the first 22 games. I didn't think that it was as leaky as it was at times and defensively. But I think we'll continue to, and listen, everybody's clamored for the snarl. Everybody has. For as long as we've been doing this podcast, we send out questions. The Bruins need to get tougher. They need to get more bulliness in them. And that's what Zadorov does. So you have to accept some of these minor penalties. I don't mind the minor penalty for cross-checking as much as I did the one for tripping because you're out of position.
Right.
3-4 weeks ago.
Right. Okay.
So
you took my question away. I was going to say, are you good? I was fine with that penalty, and I was fine with his comments post Detroit game too. Now, he's a veteran now, and he's calling out a young player.
Yep. No, I'm better with all of that than trying to explain an offensive zone tripping call from a defenseman. That's more problematic for your team. Those penalties seem to get killed off, and again, that will continue to make your team hard to play against. Over time, that will continue to make your team hard to play against. And so no, I like the last 10 games, 8 games from Zadorov. It's going to be an adventure, folks. It just will. Like, he's going to take more minor penalties and he's going to get into random adventures on the ice, but that's part of his game.
All right, you know what else is part of his game? His heavy shot.
Yeah.
And we saw that against Detroit in a sleepy game, which wasn't, at least to me, too much of a surprise coming off of the Centennial celebration, everything around it. And you have a Detroit game at home, a Detroit team that is a work in progress, is a way to put it. And so Zadorov gets that goal. I mean, he hammered it. And because of that, Razor, as I bring up the other logo, we're going to call that the most entertaining moment. Because we're talking about 2 games here. We're really not getting much into the Detroit game, if only because it wasn't that fun. I don't know about you. I think it was that. I know in the end it was a great result, and the Bruins get what they want. And we will talk about the Pastrnak to Zacha play, but I want to give the most entertaining moment to the cannon, the howitzer of a shot from Nikita Zadorov, who gets his first non-empty net goal as a Boston Bruin. Are you good with that?
Certainly good with it, and it was good for him to get the empty netter in Long Island. It's kind of a joke goal, but it does get you out of the goose egg, and makes you. It just seems like the next one comes after that one quickly. And offensively, again, we talk about kind of the new idea of D's pounding the puck and getting it and shooting it and not thinking about it. Will help Zadorov offensively. That's his wheelhouse. He has a hard shot. He can snap it. He can shoot it. And if that's his first thought process, pucks are going to get to the net more. And I think what will also happen is forwards will start looking for him a little bit more when he's open back there because of shots like that. So that frees everybody up. It was a great goal, and it's similar to the Geekie goal. Felt important to get going in that Detroit game at the time.
14 goals from the stick of Nikita Zadorov in the 22-23 season, Razor, when he was with Calgary. 14.
Yeah, he can shoot it.
Playoffs as well.
He can beat.
All right, so that's our Apex most entertaining moment. Check out apexentertainment.com for 100,000 square feet of pure fun. Let's take a moment here as well to recognize our other sponsors. And we're going to start with Graciano Construction. Graciano Construction, serving Boston and the greater Metro West area, and really a lot around Massachusetts. If you give Doug Graciano and his crew a call at 508-330-7589 or go to gracianoconstruction.com, you can look to see all the different projects they have done, and you can take a moment to reach out to them to discuss what you're looking to do. They do it with pride and amazing professionalism. They make doing home projects somehow seem less stressful and almost enjoyable, Razor. They'll do it all: bathrooms, kitchen, porch projects, full renovations, painting, even garages. There's nothing that they can't do. Check out gracianoconstruction.com. They will help you refresh, revitalize your space. They do a beautiful job of that. And I'm telling you, if you're listening, they're busy as shit. I mean, that's the good news, but Doug somehow always makes time, call you, text you, whatever, keep you posted on things. It's what you want out of a contractor. And what you want out of your realtor is RTN Realty. RTN Realty, if you're looking to buy, sell, or lease a new place in Mass, Rhode Island, or New Hampshire, all right, those three areas, those three states, you got to check out Chris Gentile at rtnrealty.com or email him directly, cgentile@rtnrealty.com, or call him at 617-835-0845. You can get a no-pressure consultation, Razor. You can take a look what's out there. I know it's December, but all of a sudden, early spring, some rentals start to change and stuff. This is a perfect time to reach out to Chris. Don't wait to the last minute. Reach out to RTN Realty. Reach out to Chris there. They handle all types of real estate transactions. The best part, they do it without the high pressure some of the other agencies do. Chris has over 22 years and over 2,500 transactions to his credit in the business. RTNRealty.com. I'm going to jinx myself and say I got all of them in, and we did it okay.
Looked really good from my end. So
wow,
he is proud.
RC
doesn't yell at you all day.
RC, you cannot yell at me at the 28-minute mark of the show. So. You can find something else. I'm sure I did.
Yeah.
All right. So you get out of Chicago. Now you get, you get that victory. You come home. You got a couple of days. When I say off, meaning Thursday. You got home late last night too. I mean, or this morning. Yeah. They probably got home at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
So you lose the hour, etc. You get your rest, and then Friday you'll have practice, and then Saturday you have a matinee. It's quick. It's a tough turnaround again. The tough part of the schedule. I was being asked by somebody yesterday. I think it was radio. I was doing the Sports Hub, my spot, and like, why do the Bruins have more games in play than pretty much anybody else? I think there's one or two other teams. I think New Jersey has a similar amount of games, if I remember correctly. Bruins have played 28, as have the Bruins. There's two other teams with 27. San Jose's played 28 as well. It's all about this Four Nations, right? I mean, it's a condensed schedule, and it's just also about how things work out. I mean, the good news in theory, Razor, Bruins get through December, which is a busy month too. They'll have more time off as the season goes on because other teams have got to play catch up. And while 3 games doesn't sound like a lot, it is when it all adds up.
Oh yeah, it adds up big time. And you look at Tampa. Tampa missed 2 games, or at least one, because of the hurricane
Yeah.
got canceled. So there are 5 games, but they have to make up 5 games over 4 months. That's like it adds up. It really does add up. That 1 game a week, or 1 game every 2 weeks, or 15 days. That's that wears on you. So no, it's never a bad thing to get the games in, and they have a real. This is tough now because you have the game at home, and then you go on the road for the 2 weeks right before
Yes.
Christmas out
Yes.
west. It's always a grind. Guys get sick. It's inevitable. It's just they get through this month, and they've a good time of kind of building up, and they're but it is a tough grind. And Brad said as much last night. Just this time of year, doing that back to back that they just did. It's hard time of year.
This is an important day, again, as we sit and record this on Thursday morning, December 5th, for the Bruins players to get as much rest as possible. I know it sounds corny, but they need it right now. They need it after that. And it's going to be hard. You get home, half the guys have the kids and they're this and that, but you got to find a way to reset, because tomorrow is going to be one of those days. It's a flush out day. It'll probably be 16 to 25 minutes of on the ice, just enough, right? Just to flush out again. But you have to have that, because you got to get ready for the game on Saturday, a matinee against Philadelphia. Let's go back to the Detroit game just for a little bit here. That was a grind fest as well. You get through that one. And a couple of players in particular really were grinding in my eyes. Pastrnak, who had 2 assists, by the way, against Chicago, ends up getting the assist on the Zacha overtime goal, and it was a beautiful one. But I thought that he, at times in that game going against Detroit, you really kind of saw him fighting it again, in my eyes. I mean, do you agree about that? He had 4 shots on goal, and he played over 22 minutes, but there were looks, there were this, there were that. And that game I was watching, I was like, okay, this is the game where they need more. They need him to put up 2 against Detroit. Thankfully, they didn't, but they found a way. But it looked like a grind there for him. And again, I guess the rest of the team as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think he had a lot on his shoulders for the Centennial game as well, and coming off of that. And again, the problem is too, the power play is they're not getting free ones. He's not getting a free one. And that adds to the grind, because even the nights he gets 3 assists, it's like, well, he hasn't scored. And that's tough to live up to that expectation. I think the real positive is that at times we've seen him frustrated and grinding, but he's found a way to make the plays, whether it's in overtime like Detroit or the next night like in Chicago. He's staying consistent through that, and consistent on the grind.
By the way, the beautiful play to Marchand wasn't just pasta, but it was a gorgeous pass in Chicago off the face-off. We're going to break this down on Nesson, folks, on Saturday, but it was a gorgeous movement play, and Pastrnak from the right side. That was a classic pasta pass, checking off one way and sizzling it over, pass through the mid-ice over to Marchand, who just had the empty net.
And that's 2 face-off plays in the last week that they've pulled off, which is, again, those are kind of like free goals. They had so many of them with Patrice. That line got so many free face-off goals at the start of shifts. It's just a different kind of goal. It just feels easy. And that goes a long way for these guys. So for me, it's David's at some point, he's going to get his 6 goals over 4 games. And that's just inevitable for me. But right now he's grinding through the assists and the 1 goal every few games. But winning helps too. Winning 3 games in 4 days it feels a lot better about it too.
You have to tip your hat to Joe Sacco and the staff, who made the coaching move, who made the line change too in that Chicago game. Felt that put the 3 big guys together, see if they can generate something. That's a hard matchup for the Blackhawks, whomever they have out there. But on the road, I think he's just like, let's load it. Let's go. Let's load it. Let's go with the big guys back to back. We need them. Challenge Lindholm, challenge Pastrnak. You saw Marchand skating hard. And so you get them out there and they make something happen. You go back to that Detroit game. When you saw it in real time, hear me out on this. When you saw it in real time, did you think that was a penalty on Brad taking down DeBrincat in real time?
Yeah, for sure. Because that gets called all the time. all the time. When the guy goes down and there's someone on his back, it's the arm goes up instantly.
You thought, oh shit, another offensive zone penalty against Pastrnak.
Why is David forechecking like that in that situation?
Exactly. Taking that route instead of staying above the net, not below it. But watching it a few times, again, I was on the desk at NHL Network as that was happening, and I'm like, oh no, like that. And you know what? If the referee had made the call, I almost couldn't blame him, by the way.
No.
However, to the ref's credit, he was in the right spot. You could see him right away, almost signal like play on, right? And I don't know if DeBrincat lost it. I don't think he flew his feet out and dove. I don't. I think he kind of turned and quasi lost an edge, leaned back a bit more. You could see him leaning on the stick too and grabbing it. And that doesn't mean that David couldn't have done something before that, but I really went back and there were a few Detroit social media posts, people with Detroit connections that were like, look at the push. I'm like, I really looked hard. I didn't see anything. Did you see anything at all that was like even marginal? It was just kind of optically that David was behind him. Yep. David kept his stick down for the most part, and then DeBrincat leaned back into him a bit, and I think just caught an edge or just leaned too much and flipped out. That's what I thought.
Yeah, no, they could have leaned on each other, and you lose an edge that you can lose your balance. It's happening pretty quick out there. But again, the difference is the refs were very decisive there. He saw it, like you said. He said play on right away. It wasn't like he got his arm halfway up and then he put it down because the Bruins scored. He didn't want to get in the middle of it. He was decisive right away. And of course, it's frustrating when you lose like that as a fan base or as a team. You're going to yell at the ref, but I think at the end of the day, the play on is always better than not.
I always try to base it on would I be pissed off if it happened to the Bruins?
Yeah, and you would be instantly. You would be instantly, but you'd look at it and you'd be like, that was closer than I thought.
It was more, I thought it was a good no call, not because it was the Boston Bruins scoring, folks. It was a good no call because the referee was in a good spot, seemed to be very clear on what he saw, and he interpreted it that way. I don't think it was a penalty. But I did. I'm sitting at the desk. I'm like, oh, shit, here we go. One other thing I want to touch on. So in that game, it was a really nice pass, finish the game, great. But Korpisalo, again, the ability for Jonas, I mean, his reads, excellent now. His lack of openness to his game, I felt like when he came in that there was more, maybe the term flailing, for at least me, comes to mind, guessing almost. Now it seems to be a much, and I think I've said this before in our show, much more composed. I just do. And he was really good in that game. Really good.
Yeah. He's an NHL goaltender and he's getting confidence. His confidence was beat up last year. It was played a bunch of games on a bad team that didn't play defense, and it wears on you. And you wonder if it's your game, and you wonder, you start searching for things that aren't there. You start overdoing it, and that's where the reaching and the chasing comes in, because you're just trying too hard and you feel like you're missing something when in reality.
So what has goalie Bob done? Sorry to interrupt, but what has goalie Bob done to change, to help manufacture a different look? Well, not just the drift stuff. Like, what has he done?
Yeah, well, no, it is that though. It really is that. It's the ability to stay inside your net. Listen, you don't need to go chase pucks. You don't need to go get pucks. They'll come to you. So we talk so much about drift with Linus. He put the drift in, Swayman, Tuukka, and now Korpisalo. He's staying in his blue crease. He's got a little bit of movement in his drift where he's not going out at pucks. He's not getting stuck out in the white paint. He's finding his way back into the blue paint. That gives you confidence. That if you start making saves with that, you start getting comfortable with it, you're ready for the next save. We've seen him make 2-3 save sequences a few times where if he's out another 6 inches, he doesn't get his stick on it. He doesn't get his pad on it. That great play against Detroit the other night. Like, he's in the middle of his crease, not at the top of his crease. He's at the top. He doesn't make that next save. And then post integration, there's a lot of work going from that, getting into your net, and then playing pucks in behind the net, going post to post more in control, being able to make the next play. So that's what goalie Bob does well as well. That's what goalie Bob does. He does a lot of that stuff, and Korpisalo is doing a lot. I watched in Dallas. I watched him pregame skating in Carolina. That's what he works on. And as you get good at that, getting in and out a little bit, just it's millimeters with these guys, right?
Yeah.
I've talked about the margin so much, right? It's
Yeah.
not, these aren't overhaul things. These are just millimeters that make one more save over for Korpisalo, it's one save every 3 weeks is changing his game. That's like changing his numbers. That's the margin these guys live on, and that's where he's at. And so that's confidence. He just he's feeling bigger, and the team's playing better in front, and he looks like a great trade. What a trade! What a trade!
I know. Really, right now it has been remarkably good for the Boston Bruins.
Yeah,
Castella continues to play well. Hopefully Letourneau turns into something. It's going to take him 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, he's a project.
That's a big project. Couple of quick questions here from our listeners that we took on social media, and we wrap this one up. Joe, Bruin Blood, an issue, he says, gentlemen, that keeps haunting this team is the passing. They continually shoot themselves in the foot with the first bad pass. Any thoughts on that? I have felt at times that we've always talked about details, but I have felt that they have been average at best with their passing, very average. And I want to say it seems like a simple cleanup, but it's a mindset, first of all, but it's an actual skill. I think every fan knows that. And if they do clean it up, Razor, they're going to be better. It has been something that has not been effective. In particular, the decisions of passing and the actual making of passes on the power play have been very noticeably poor at times.
That's where I see it the most. I think the D, I think the D will continue to connect with the forwards. I think overall the D's been pretty good at moving, but it's the power play. It's that they get 2 passes in, the third one bobbles, and then it breaks up and they get closed in on, they lose their momentum. So I agree. I see it more so an issue on the power play, that one little bobble kills them almost every power play that they don't score on. You can go through and say, he bobbled it there on the half wall. If he doesn't bobble it, that's got to be clean. It can't be in his skates. It can't be bobbled by the player. Handling the pass, there's all different kind of scenarios, and that's where it's like it's hard to pinpoint why it's happening, because it's happened to everybody on both sides, handling and receiving, or receiving and giving passes. But it's got to be
skills better. Hey man, sometimes
skills.
A little skills practice can come into play. I mean, literally simplify it. Go back to hockey camp. And I know it sounds funny. I'm not being a smart ass. Have a few practices, and you don't have a lot of practice time.
That's the problem, right? The timing
of
it.
Go back to a skills type thing and work on that. And because it's one of those things where you need a reset. Even pros need it. They need a reset about reminding targets, follow through, etc. All that stuff. Either said no. Walter Hobbs had a similar question about when do you think they're going to look in sync. He talks about their breakouts and chips to space, but catching and making passes. So, Walter, we kind of addressed that there. We thank you for that. Maria of Watertown, our friend. Bruins defense seems to be improving, but they continue to struggle scoring 5-on-5 goals. Yeah, you're right. Is there any chance Sweeney considers a trade? And if so, who would you target? Who would you be willing to part with? I mean, right now we know the New York Rangers are a mess and open for business. The big name out there is Chris Kreider. That's not going to be an easy trade to pull off for that type of a deal. You're going to give up 1 or 2 guys off of your roster, I would think. And that's okay. That's part of it. Maria, this is maybe a lame ass answer. Who are you getting back? How much are you getting back? I mean, we can sit here and do, hypothetical trades all day. I cannot, and I said this on radio, they knew coming into this season that they would have to address scoring. They knew it in the top 6 role, in particular, a left wing or a right wing, depending on how you look at it. Sure. Personally, I'm a Kreider fan. He's 33, but I still think he's got years left. I would be happy. But you're going to give up 2 pieces, probably a forward and a D off your roster. And depending on what you get back from the New York Rangers.
And you're dealing with a team that you're fighting a playoff spot for, original 6. Like it's, I know they've made a couple deals with the Rangers over the years, but that was when the Rangers had no, business. They weren't getting in the playoffs. I think my guess is they have a big board somewhere in Warrior, in the Garden somewhere that has a bunch of names on it that and I bet they've had this since July 1st, where they've said these guys are unrestricted. These guys are going to be in play in March, in February. And this is where we are going to survive. Until then, we're going to be in the mix, and we're going to be buyers, as we always are at the deadline, and finding one of these kind of players. I don't know who they are, but I feel pretty confident in the fact they have a list and they have names and they have guys that they think can fit into their system, but it won't be until later when they have salary cap and they can move guys and they can get rid of guys.
Yeah. And I'm looking at teams like Columbus. They have Don Waddell as the new GM there. He will make trades come second half of the year. I'm telling you, I've known Don forever since I've been in the NHL business, and he will make trades. I think Detroit's going to look to make some. Buffalo, I don't know what the hell they're going to do there. And I'd have to look to see who I'd want. Jason Zucker actually.
Chicago's going to get in play. Nashville's going to be in play.
Chicago, Nashville, no question. Utah has to be in play. Utah has to be. They're going to be making things. So there's some players that are going to be out there. All right, one more. Two questions. One from Tumbling Muffin, and then one for Mark Allred. They both involve Joe Sacco. Does Sacco stay? Maybe it's too early probably to talk about that. I'm putting these together. Do they reward him if things continue to turn around? Tumbling Muffin says, does Joe Sacco, does he really want the job? As he's a decade of being an assistant, says something to him. That's again from this person, Tumbling Muffin. Mark Allred, do you feel Joe Sacco the answer? Do you think they're going to monitor the situation here? Also with perhaps what's going on in Pittsburgh with Mike Sullivan. First of all, Joe Sacco's been up for other NHL jobs. So that, he's got hunger. He's got fire.
Oh, yeah.
He's got fire to be a head coach.
He got a new title, don't forget, in the summer, associate, not assistant. Like that means he wants to be a head coach.
I think they stay with interim for the season.
Yeah.
I think they do. I think that's pretty clear, right? Am I misremembering? Or wasn't that talked about when? Well,
it's just easier to do that because they're not going to get anybody else. Sully's not coming here, folks. His son-in-law is on the team. And who knows if he leaves Pittsburgh. I mean, he's a legend there, but he's been here before. He's not. I don't see Sully coming here at all.
I don't think they do anything in season. I think,
and that's to my point. The interim stays because they're not going to. Joe Sacco's team this year. There's absolutely no question about that.
This is not Drew Bannister and then moving in Jim Montgomery for the Blues.
That's right. They're not going to get anybody else. Joe Sacco's running the ship all the way to hopefully June, no question. And then you recalibrate just like every other team does, in the summer.
Exactly. Folks, thanks for your questions. We appreciate it. We'll do it again. We haven't done it much lately. Four Nations, anything? Swayman gets named to it. Yep. Wasn't sure if he would, but we knew he was in the mix. Yep. Congratulations to him. Yep. Elias Lindholm gets named to Team Sweden. I thought Hampus may have a chance, but he's got the knee injury. He's out. He's out for a while still. So I think that played a big factor. And they have a nice depth on that Swedish defense. But I thought Hampus, the way he was playing, was in the mix, but he doesn't get named to it.
And who knows, if he comes back and he plays a month and they get an injury on back end, he's probably right at the top of that list. No earth-shattering plays. I think, the U.S. team with Caulfield and Tage Thompson not making it, I think there's some buzz there, but I think we all have to remember that when GMs want to make teams, they want guys that have won, and they want guys that have played in big games before. Right. And those guys have not played in one big game in their entire careers as NHLers. That's not to be overlooked.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. Congratulations to everybody that made it. The tournament again, Montreal and then Boston. We had Steve Mayer on a couple of shows ago. If you want to hear more about it, Steve was great from the NHL. All right, it's going to wrap up this Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. Thanks to all of our listeners. Thank you to our sponsors. Razor, thank you. We will be back, right? We're doing a show after the Saturday matinee. Razor and I got some work coming together, folks. So we're actually going to try to pump out a couple of more as we got Saturday coming up, and then we got a couple of roadies that we're going to do right after as well. So we'll get back to what we call our Morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor roots. The Boston Bruins win again, now 3 in a row, back-to-back wins Tuesday and Wednesday over Detroit and then Chicago. They're back at it Saturday afternoon against the Philadelphia Flyers. The team I think that we know they're going to play
You're going to block shots.
You're going to block shots. It's going to be kind of a sloppy, kind of a sludge fest type of game. So the Bruins better be prepared for that one if they can keep their winning ways going. All right, enjoy the day, folks. Enjoy your coffee, too. It's been a good one. And hey, RC, I made it.